Hello, 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 hello. So yeah, I'll start. 207. Okay, so this is my as it is GitHub clone that I have done from our GitHub repository into the final assignment folder. So no changes had been done except installing some npm packages and adding the env variable in the backend so that it will actually connect to my MongoDB Atlas. Now I will go ahead and try to run the code. So before running, as I mentioned earlier, this is the same GitHub repository that we have in our GitHub repo. So this is the same, no changes had been done. So I will go Control Z, npm run dev to run our code, cd backend to go into the backend folder and run that too. So now when we actually clone our GitHub version, there is an error. Is this missing an inventory risks utilities folder inside which there is inventory risk, which is actually missing. So, but when we were doing our release 1.0 demonstration, we had that and we had that. So for some reasons, I guess the inventory risk.js didn't push into our GitHub. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna recreate inventory risk.js in the same way we had during our release 1.0 demonstration or the end of iteration 2, so that when I go and run the app, I will face the similar issue or the same issue that Vivek faced, our team leader, during the release 1.0 demonstration. So now my first step is to actually make the code run, and then after fixing it, I'll actually post it into the GitHub as well, so that when somebody will clone the assignment or this full again, it will at least run. So first I will go inventory utils and inventory Rick.js. So backend, new folder, utils, and then inside that I will create new file, inventory risk.js. Sorry, my bad. Inventory.js. During our original production, the whole point of doing inventory.js was to calculate our inventory risk label. So for example, one item, maybe it's close to the reorder threshold or close to the threshold that the client have set. So we want to make sure that it actually send in the front end that the item is at a certain condition. For example, if the stock available is less than the threshold it had the user have set, I want that to tell them, I want my application to tell it, oh, it's in critical stage. Now if the stock that is between critical and safe, I want it to say at risk, I want it to say it's in medium risk. So no need to worry, it's depend upon what you want. And next, if the both the conditions are false, if it's not in high risk, if it's not in medium risk, I want it to be safe. So for that, I will actually import two things. From models, I will invert inventory.js. In inventory.js, I need I need current stock and reorder threshold. So the reason why I need current stock and reorder threshold is it will help me to calculate the percent of the amount of stock percentage that is needed or that is required for my code. And then I need another system settings.js. Here, the thing that I need is with this two: risk settings, high risk percentage, and medium risk percentage. So now I will just go and import this two into my inventory.js. Inventory const then system settings is equal to require so, models slash system settings. Now since I have the two things that I need, so for next step is for me to get our inventory risk percentage. So the one that I mentioned, high risk percentage and medium risk percentage. And for that, I'm gonna create a function called get inventory risk percentage. So with that, I will be actually able to extract high risk percentage and medium risk percentage sent by the client or the threshold. So for that, I'm going to create an asynchronous function because then I have to wait for my MongoDB response. Async function get inventory risk percentage. So for here, I will need const setting is equal to, oh wait, system settings dot find one, and then I want this to return high risk percentage. Go to settings. First check settings. If setting exists, go to risk setting. Yes, risk settings, right? Risk settings. Risk settings. And if it exists, go to high risk percentage and set the default value. If not, set to 50. And using the same logic, I'll use medium risk percentage. Go to settings, setting, go to risk settings, and then go to medium risk percentage. If there is the value, set the value. If not, return me 100. So now, the whole purpose of this line is to call the system settings, and in system settings, find one that has that has settings document in MongoDB. So what I'm trying to say in this line is go to say, find high risk percentage. For that, go to thing that has our settings saved. See if there is risk settings. If there is risk settings, get me the high risk percentage or the medium risk percentage. If there is the value saved, use that value. If not, set the default value of high risk percentage as 50 and medium risk percentage as 100. Now, since I have the high risk percentage and medium risk percentage, next step is to calculate our inventory risk label. So for that also, I'm going to use another function that I'm going to need async function calculate inventory risk label. And for that, I want this to go have two parameters, current stock and reorder threshold. So current stock and reorder threshold from here. Current stock and reorder threshold. No, from my bad. Where did it go? Immediate adjust. Yeah. So I need it to actually get current stock and the reorder threshold. So these two. So now I'll go back to my immediate.js. So I have this. So now I will again call const high x percentage, medium x percentage, higher X percent, medium X percentage is equal to await, await, get, get inventory X percentage. So I'm just recalling the function that I used earlier to get higher X percentage and medium X percentage. Now, when we get current stock and reorder threshold from our MongoDB or from our API, sometimes it get misplaced or it get categorized as string. Since we don't want that to happen, we want to make sure that it get read as number. So we'll make sure. So we'll add another stock that will say number, and that will have current stock. Then same way, const threshold number, then reorder threshold. So with this, we have make sure that the parameter that we use actually be used as a number. It won't be used as string. So for that, with this, we can actually calculate our math function easily. That will help us to calculate our stock percentage. So now we will actually write the function that will help us to calculate stock percentage. Const stock percentage is equal to mm, stock divided by threshold is 4 into 100. So this will help me to get the stock percentage, my bad, into 100. Now is that we'll get our stock percentage. So now we'll actually write our condition. So first condition will be if stock percentage is smaller than or is equal to high risk percentage, set it as high risk or set it as critical. If stock percentage is smaller than or equal to medium risk percentage, set it at risk or medium risk. So now I go here. Okay, so if I'll write the condition, if stock percentage is smaller than or equal to high risk percentage, I want that to return high critical. Same way, if stock percentage is smaller than or is equal to medium mix percentage, I want that to return critical, and then I want this to return at risk. And if both the statement is false, I want it to return safe. Return safe. So with this, what we are doing is we are getting an inventory risk label of one individual item. First, it will use current stock and reorder threshold to actually get a stock percentage. And with this logic, if stock percentage is smaller than or greater than high risk percentage, it will return critical. Stock percentage is greater than or medium risk percentage, it will return at risk. Now, with this, uh, since we have got our inventory risk label for one item, now I will create a function that will help us to build inventory risk label for all the items that is in our inventory. So for that, I will create another function, a synchronous function called refresh all inventory risk labels. So now since we have that, now I will call const items is equal to await inventory dot Find format inventory that had for first item of items, use of items, item dot x label is equal to await calculate inventory x label where the value that I will pass is item dot current stock and then item dot reorder threshold. So with this, now I want await item dot save. So now with this, it will go to the each item that we have in inventory, and then it will calculate, it will trigger the calculate inventory risk level function, pass all the respective current stock and reorder threshold it has, and it will save the value into risk label, and then it will be saved into item.save in our MongoDB. So after that, let's export our module dot exports is equal to, first that I need is get inventory risk percentage, calculate inventory risk label, and then refresh all inventory risk labels. So with that, I think it is the same logic that we use during our production or during our release 1.2 demonstration. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually try and run that our code again, see that if it changes or anything happens. So my bad. Now we will call cd npm run dev again. Since we already have our front end loaded, let's just copy that and go to our code. So now 611 signing in. So our system is finally here. So the our mistake that we were not able to push the inventory rigs.js, but if we have pushed, it will have been the same code that it is right now. So now I will actually go and try to fix the story 7 bug. So I'll go to my document. So I'll go to this document, story 7. So yeah, now, so let me save system settings. Steps, open system settings. I'll open my system settings. System settings, change default low stock threshold. So default low stock threshold from 10 to 15. 10 to 15 expected success message, updated value persists on reload. So I will actually go there and change this 10 to 15. Save settings. So we didn't get our success message. Let's try that again. No, but let's do the other thing. Success message, it we didn't get this. Update value persist on reload. So let's just reload the system settings. So we do have the updated value. Okay, so 15. Let's go to our cluster. So this is the cluster that is connected to our stock guard, and low stock threshold is 10. So let's just refresh it again. So everything changes. It goes into our MongoDB. MongoDB actually reads the data that we have sent. The only thing that we don't get is the success message. So let us try again. Let us see. No, so we don't get the like a success message. So what we're gonna do now is try to figure out why it's happening. So as I believe, since we are getting our message, our value that we changed before reload the same way, and it's also going into our cluster. So let me go and actually check our network. F12. Now save settings. So now we will take a look at the error message that we have. Failed to update system settings. Yes, the one that great. Invalidation, inventory validation failed. Risk level safe is not a valid enough value for path risk label. So what actually happened during our coding was, since we categorize our inventory as safe, since we categorize our inventory as safe, critical, and at risk, we actually use the same logic even in our inventory risk label calculation as well. But in our inventory.js, we have the enum value set as low, medium, and high. So the whole reason that we were not able, the bug was there, is because of this. We were not able to call right value. So if we change that to inventory.js, we will change that to low me. So this will be high. Let me check if if the spellings are correct. Uh, so high, medium, and low. So let's. So the connection has started again. Let us go back and go to our system settings. Now let's again change the value to let's any value. So 22. Now once we hit system settings, so yeah, so system settings is updated successfully. So the whole reason that happened was we were able to send backend, and so we were able to send the system back to MongoDB. But since our business logic and value or data were mismatched, or data were not consistent, we were getting that error message. Since I have fixed that, now we won't be able, now we won't get that error message again. And let's go back and see if anything changes here. So 22 happens 22. So this is now actually solved. So let us make the, I'll make this green. I'll make this green again. And this one, I'll write this as pass. So low stock threshold 10 to 15. Let's actually check that if happens. Where is my front end? So let's check that 15. It was 10 when we first started. So save settings. Now I go back and now I refresh. So even in the MongoDB, our low stock threshold is 15. So the before and after result that was expected. I don't know why I'm getting this error. So is done. Now it's done. Since I have to again perform test 2, open the add inventory model. Okay, let's go. And let's go to add inventory. Then let's go to add inventory item. And then I will go here. Check expect reorder threshold field is pre-filled with the same default 15. So we saved our default value to be 15 and the reorder threshold is actually 15. So we will go and try that again. Let's change that value to something else. System settings. I'm going to change that to 22. Save settings. Now I'll go to my inventory. Now I will go to add inventory item. So test 2 also passes. Where's my dog file? So the test 2 also pass. And now I will go back to the mail again. So the first time is gone. Life fixes Turn live execution from the application screen. The demo says 27 test when passing. Okay. Test 2 is also passed. Run nps test from the backend directory on screen and show the 5 unit test suite still passes. So now, since we don't have test folder that will in our GitHub as well, so I will actually create a test folder now. And the unit test that I will be performing is for auth route.js. So I will go ahead and create an folder. For that, I will name it test. Inside that test folder, I will have new file called auth routes.test.js. So we have actually created this test file. So when we create our test file, so what we need is our application to be tested. Since so for that we will import an express application, the application which will act like our dummy or mini stock guard. So for that we will express const express is equal to require express, and then the same way we want. So we have our express, or we have our mini app. Now we want to send some http request to our app. So for that we will use something called super test. So what super test does is to actually help us to send an fake or dummy http request to our application. So const request is equal to require super test. Now with that, so we have imported the two basic. We have imported our app. We have imported the thing that will help us to go into our mm, send our fake HTTP request. Now we need our dummy user. So for that, we will create a dummy user just dot mock slash models slash user return and one zest dot fn. So this will help us to create, help us to use a dummy user model. So this one. So this will act like a human that is actually trying to log in into our system. Or okay, now we have that. So let's import the dummy user that we just created. Const user is equal to required and go inside models and go inside user. So with that, yeah, oh, my bad. User. Now, another thing that we gonna import is our authenticator routes that we gonna test now. So const auth routes is equal to require require it will go inside routes and go inside auth routes. So this is the one that will be actually performing our unit test on. So we have that. Now next step is for us to create our dummy app. So const build app const build app is equal to const app is equal to express. this is the dummy app or mini stock guard app. Then app dot use, we want it is to use express dot json. So the whole purpose of this is so that whenever I send an email or a password, for example, I'm sending email abc@gmail.com, it will be a .json. So I want this to actually have the capability to run the JSON or read the JSON file. So app.use express.json, app.use. So this will be our route to check api.auth, then auth routes. So this is the route path that will be checked during the testing phase. And now we want this to return app. So we have created our app. Now next thing that we'll create is our testlet. So what testlet does is once I finish my test one and I go to my test two, I want test 2 to start fresh. I don't want it to carry on the data of test 1 so that whenever test 2 is running, it can run independently. So for example, I will write describe anything auth routes goes there. So describe auth routes goes in here before each. I want this to just dot clear all mocks. So what will happen is before starting any test, it will just go inside, it will just clear all that and start a new test phase. So actually I'm gonna perform 5 tests from auth routes. I'm gonna check when user is trying to log in and when he forgets his email, or I mean when user tries to log in without email, when user tries to log in without password, when password is missing, and then if email or password is invalid. Next, if so when user is doing forget password and he set password and confirm password to different and set password. So I'm gonna check those 5. So the 5 tests is, so first test that I'm gonna perform is test post API auth login should return 400 when email is missing. So I'll go there as sync, go here. So for that const app is equal to build app. I'm calling the app, calling my express app const response is equal to await request slash app. So this will actually help me to get a response after what we have done. So now I want it to post, go through API auth login. I want this to use this route. Then I want it to send only password. Send let's say password. I will name the password anything. So maybe A B C D E 1 2 3. And now ex expect expect response dot status. I want this to actually throw me the error 400 dot to be 400 expect response dot body dot message dot to be email is invalid. So now this is our first test that we're gonna perform. So let's try and run that one. Control. I will use another cd backing npm test. Email is An email is invalid. Hmm? Oh, sorry, I write something else. So it should be email is required. So my bad. When email is missing, so it's actually here. Mm, 400 email password is required. Where did it go? Email is required. So I'm trying to use this. Next, I will use is invalid email or password, and password is required. So let's go back to our tester.js. Now go ahead. Okay, so this test passed. Now the another test that I'm gonna perform is test email is missing. Now I'm gonna perform password is missing. So return 400 when password is missing. Same password is required. So here, so how we have set our authentication is to saying that we want our whenever password is missing, when the system checks that, we want to make sure that the user is active, user has password, and user has password saved. So for example, I'm going to use the user dot find one dot mock resolve value. Mock resolve values. I want status of our user to be active, active, has has password to be true, and then I want it the password in the system should be anything. One, two, three. It should be a string. All right, so we have actually done this, and now we will only send email. Send email abcd123 @ gmail.com. So let's try and run the test again. Hmm. Well, I'll just make sure. Uh, where's the one? Where it is giving me error? Oh, sorry. My back RES is value. Okay, so this one passed as well. And now I want to create another one. The login should return 401 when email when credentials are invalid. Credentials are invalid. So the another way of keeping credentials are invalid, it means also that there is no user with such credentials. So when we are doing our mock reserve value, we want this to actually return us null, so that it doesn't find anything. And then we'll go back again. Email is equal to abcd1234@gmail.com. I would say password to strong password. Now I want to make sure the inventory message is invalid email or password. Let's just copy that. Control C. Let's go to our test.js. Control invalid email or password. Now I'm I want the status to be 401. So what we are checking is we want to make sure that we don't have any user with this credentials. So when it will go and search into our mock database, it won't find anything with this user. So let me go again. Okay, so this one also passed. Now we'll create another function that we will create to post API auth forget forward password should return 401 when. So when user is doing a forgot password and he is setting password and new password, we want to make sure that is not too short. So in our system it should be at least 6 character long. When so password is too short, so I don't need user to find one. I want you to use the path forward password. So password is, let's say, 123, and confirm password is 123. We should return 400 as well. 400. I want to make sure what is the code that we need. Uh, where did it go? New password must be at least 6 characters. This is the one that I want. So let's go test invalid using email or password. Control V. Email password must be at least 6 characters. Okay, let's try and run that system again. Okay, so this one also passed. So what we did was we sent email, and during the password we sent the password with less than 6 characters. So this one passed as well. The another unit test I'm going to perform is test say password should return 400 when password mismatch mismatch. So we're gonna change this password to 123456789 and confirm password to 9876543. And then we want the message to be password doesn't match. Passwords do not match. Control C. Now I go to inventory test.js. Control V. Passwords do not match. Now let's run this test again. Okay, so all the five tests have successfully passed, and this is the end for this. Now I'm going to go back to my thing here. So now for why software engineering principle was violated in the original code and why? What would I have done differently during station to implement this bug? What did you personally contribute to stage 7 during the project and what did you learn from this fix? So I'll come back here. So everything I will display capture all of that. I'll just go into the center. So the software engineering principle that is violated was the business logic. The one logic we had doesn't match with the data that we wanted. So it was the logic between business logic and um, so basically the business logic data and so business logic and the SCOM data was invalid. So it violated that principle. During iteration 2, I would have make sure to add an unit test to actually test the error, the one that we received, and also I'll have make sure the business logic matches with the data schema value. So safe critical attributes, these are the word that we use during our website development or our application development. Sometimes it's easy to get confused between those values and the values that we want to use. So if I have to go back to our iteration 2 phase again, firstly I will have added a validation check. Second, I will have make sure to actually tell or actually mention our people that hey, these are the scum values that we need to use. So these are the ones that would have changed. During the project, I was the one that actually made those schema low, medium, and high. So so this was my contribution during that project. And from this fix that I learned was sometimes the fix mm, should not be a crazy fix. It should not be like hey, a whole algorithm change, a whole program change. It can be something that may not give a full 100% error, but it gives us the error that is such a way enough to make our test go invalid. So invalid. So I will go. mm, So from this fix that I learned is I should be consistent between my business logic and the data schema that I should be using. So now after this, I will be posting all this code into GitHub and I will stop recording now. So the whole recording has been uncut and it has been 48 minutes around. So no cuts has been done and all right. So